Welcome back. So we're going to talk about the classic article, Creating Corporate Entrepreneurship by Stopford and Baden-Fuller. And they present three very interesting definitions of entrepreneurship. Corporate entrepreneurship. First of all, they talk about the development of new businesses within an organization. This is normally described as intrapreneurship that you may see in popular media. Let's think about what we mean by entrepreneurship. You all understand, if you've been watching my channel, what a strategic business unit is. A strategic business unit is a subsidiary of a corporation that could act as a standalone business if it had to. I'll provide an example. You've probably heard of the company 3M. Or maybe you haven't heard of 3M, but you've definitely heard of their products. For example, let's say you're at the grocery store and you see BIC, B-I-C. They make cheap razors, cheap pens, things like that. That is a product line of 3M. Now if 3M wanted to, they could spin BIC off. They could sell the BIC business and it could become a standalone business all by itself. Therefore, the BIC line of products is a strategic business unit of the company 3M. 3M also owns sticky notes. They make the chemical adhesives, and so they have sticky notes. They can also spin off sticky notes into an independent, standalone company if they had to. And so for this reason, the sticky notes division of 3M is also a strategic business unit. If a company decides to get into something new, totally brand new, this is an example of intrapreneurship, when they establish brand new strategic business units. Think of Apple. Apple was fundamentally a computer company, software as well. However, when they decided to get into the music business with iTunes, that was a new strategic business unit, and therefore it was a type of intrapreneurship, or as they say, new businesses within an existing organization. And guess what? When they decided to get into the establishment of motorcycle ripping by, so after they got into iTunes and they wanted to get into the development of tablets, that was another new strategic business unit. So that's again a type of intrapreneurship. And when they got into phones, that was yet another form of intrapreneurship. So this is corporate entrepreneurship in action. You can also look at initiatives for transformation or renewal of an existing organization. That basically, and you have to think about this, large companies get kind of stale, right? Bureaucracies become inefficient, they don't function as well, it's just not that well-oiled machine that it once was, or maybe it doesn't dominate the market as it once did. So if you look at an initiative for transformation, my favorite example is Nokia. You know, they're the ones that used to have the market on Blackberries and pre-smartphones and things like that. Okay. However, before they got into the market of phones, it was a paper company. They cut down trees, they turned it into wood pulp, and they turned that wood pulp into paper. It was a paper company. And the powers that be at Nokia decided that paper was not the future of that company. So they completely transformed into a company that made Blackberries, the little phones. Okay? So for this reason, Nokia went through a period of transformation. Renewal can also be an example. A lot of companies become inefficient in their operations. And so my previous consulting work, I do a lot of Lean Six Sigma projects. Lean Six Sigma is an operations management doctrine that helps organizations optimize their processes. Well, there are so many examples of renewal. I mean, even GE, which is the company that popularized the concept of Six Sigma, that was a way for GE to become more efficient in its operations. So therefore, it's a form of renewal, and therefore it's a form of corporate entrepreneurship. Or AT&T does a lot of Lean Six Sigma initiatives. They are trying to find ways in which they can become what Michael Porter would call excellence in operations. How to do those same operations better than the competition. how to streamline those bureaucracies. And then the last definition of corporate entrepreneurship that they provide is changing the existing rules of competition, right? And if you've been watching my videos, you've probably seen strategic group maps, supply and demand curves, all that good stuff, right? Imagine a company that completely shatters existing markets and existing industries, okay? Or if you want to use a classical economics term, they destroy the existing supply and demand curve. This is kind of the Schumpeterian creative destruction. My favorite example of this is Facebook, because you're looking not at Mark Zuckerberg as the entrepreneur, but you're looking at the entire company of Facebook as the entrepreneur. And Facebook definitely changed the rules of competition. Before Facebook came along, social media wasn't really a big thing. And I think about being an undergrad. You know, you went to a bar. What did you do in a bar? You talked to people, right? You talked to people in a bar. Maybe you had some peanuts and hot wings and some beverages of your choice, but you talked to people. Now, because Facebook launched this whole social media craze, when you go to a bar, you look to the left and you look to the right, and what are people doing? They're pecking around on their phones, right? They're not really talking to each other. They're paying attention to the smartphone. This fundamentally changed the way we communicate as a species. This fundamentally changed all the rules of marketing. It, helped propel smartphones to legitimacy because it gave people an excuse to look at something for fun. This really changed multiple markets and multiple industries. So for this reason, we can argue that the entire firm Facebook is a corporate entrepreneur. Now, these three definitions are not mutually exclusive. Okay? It's not like a firm can only choose one of these and, you can't do another one. That's really not the way that it works. And I was trying to think about a company that maybe you could find all three. And the best example that I can think of, from what I understand, is Google. So, new businesses within the organization. From what I've read about Google, they allot their employees 20% of their work time to projects of their own choice. Okay? And if that project is something that's taken up, they can head that new organization. So let's say you've got some sort of an idea for a brand new programming package. Well, congratulations, you came up with the idea. Now you get to run it. And you get to develop it, or be the CEO of this new strategic business unit within Google, or the new president or the new manager or director, or however they structure it. Okay? They also look at initiatives for renewal and transformation. I read an interesting article that said if you're at Google and you come up with a good idea, and you suggest it to somebody, and somebody else signs off on it, and you turn that idea in, like how to optimize something or how to make something more efficient, and they like that idea, you get some sort of a cash bonus. So ways to do what you're doing already but do it better is encouraged at Google. So you also see that renewal. And because of the fact that Google really changed the whole search engine market, they dominate with YouTube, there's so many things that they're doing, it's almost not changing the rules of competition, but it's dictating the rules of competition, right? So, yeah, Google has done that as well. But if you remember nothing else about any of these definitions, you have to remember that corporate entrepreneurship implies that you redeploy resources in new and innovative ways. You've got to be willing to take some sort of a risk. You've got to be willing to take your existing capital, whether it's financial, social, communicative, intellectual, whatever, and deploy it towards some sort of a new project. Okay? So you have to be willing to do some risk taking. So at this point, I think I'll take just a little bit of a stopping point. I'll shut off this particular video, and we're going to talk about in our next video about some common attributes of corporate entrepreneurships or corporate enterprises. Hope you enjoy this video. As always, give me a thumbs up, that's a like. Comment down below, make sure you subscribe. Awesome. I'll see you in the next video.